All right. Cool.
We all went on go and not 3?
I went on go.
I went on go.
Okay. We usually do that, but I always say to the count of 3, so I'm always nervous that somebody's going to...
It's technically the count of 4, but 4 is the word go.
Yeah.
I was waiting for 4, so I never hit it.
Oh, fuck.
On the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 4.
Oh, shit. I was waiting for 3.
Now I'm recording.
I actually stopped my recording. Hey, welcome to Storied, the podcast where we take one piece of media and transform it into another.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about The Legend of Zelda. And we're going to try and turn it into probably a cyberpunk thing.
Yeah, a weird cyberpunk property.
Yeah, which is kind of, it's the thing to do these days.
Is it?
No.
Have a lot of video games been turned into cyberpunk? A lot of fantasy games turned into cyberpunk?
Blade Runner was a massive flop.
Yeah. So this seems a perfect time to to do it.
Yeah. Well,
or is it because
cool.
the bar is so
it's
low?
Not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is low though. Chris, where are you? Are you still there?
I'm here. I'm just listening.
No, that's
Perfect.
good.
Just listening to my favorite podcast.
So we should probably talk about what Cyberpunk is a little bit, in case people don't know what the hell it is. I feel like most people do because it's Blade Runner is kind of the go-to.
Well, it's like the most famous cyberpunk thing, but there's novels and like plenty of other media that have handled it. There's that show Altered Carbon on Netflix.
Yep.
That isn't good, but it's still on Netflix if you guys want to watch it.
Like books like A Neuromancer or Snow Crash. But yeah, I think Blade Runner, as far as pop culture, is the one that folks know the best.
Well, I think it's also like aesthetically, Blade Runner is more what people associate with cyberpunk, where you have like massive cities that have sort of overtaken the entire Earth that go up skyward very high, and there are billboards and advertisements everywhere, and there's sort of lots of rain and lots of neon,
Steam.
It's steam, lots of puddles, for things to reflect in, and but the cyberpunk aesthetic is actually that's just part of it, right? The aesthetic. It's also largely about like humans augmenting themselves and genetically engineering themselves and what it means to be a person. I've read books where people live their entire lives inside of a simulation on purpose because they want to get away from life. So it's all that kind of thing. It's just life sucks.
Yeah.
Corporations own everything. Is a person a person?
Yeah, there's a lot of like androids. Are they people? Should they have the same rights as other people? Stuff. And I mean, a lot of Blade Runner also was just noir. Like it was a film noir set in like the future.
There was a lot to noir. Yeah, cyberpunk aesthetics. Yeah.
It's very like gritty and like there's not a lot of like open-eyed fawning over technology. It's just sort of a fact of life. And there's like the world building can sometimes get really excited about the tech, but people in the world aren't. It's just part of their daily life. Like it hasn't really improved anybody's life. It's just changed it, especially if you're living in kind of the slums and you aren't in the like giant high-rise buildings where all the corporations like CEOs live. Everyone's life is still kind of shitty, even with all this like advanced tech and stuff. So.
And a lot of times people have to, in order to get by, they have to sort of sell parts of their body in some way. Like they have to transfer data in their brains, or they have to get beefed up genetically so that they can run a rickshaw or run people around or whatever it is.
Right. Yep.
So, yeah.
So Zelda, perfect fit.
Yeah. Well, Link with wearing a trench coat with a high collar on it, just wandering around with a gun.
So would this Master Sword be a lightsaber or what? Like what? Or is it just a regular? Is he just literally a fucking like street ninja?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of a combination, right? Like I think if you do the cyberpunk thing, he's got to have guns. It's got to be like he's sort of a, I don't know, like he could be a ninja. It could go that way. Ninjas play heavily into cyberpunk a lot of the time.
There's a lot of like Asian cultural stuff put into cyberpunk. in a weird
Yeah.
way. I don't know where that comes from, but
I think it comes from like the 80s. There was a lot of like Japanese corporation panic going on in the U.S. Like where, like, you know, they started buying up different companies in the U.S. and like I think that there was a lot of they're going to own everything one day kind of feeling going on, and so like that feeling culturally influenced the cyberpunk aesthetic a lot. I think where it's and also if you look at like Tokyo. It's got a very cyberpunk.
It just looks already cyberpunk.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you know, there's a lot of like, there's a lot of neon. There's a lot of lights everywhere.
Right.
And I think that all of those things sort of factored into like, okay, well, if this is going to be the future, if you know Japan is going to come and take everything over, then it's going to be looking like Tokyo and Los Angeles,
Right.
or in Hyrule.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
So-
All I can think is that Link is going to be using the shit out of his hook shot. 'Cause it's the most cyberpunk thing he already has.
That's true. Is it like?
I was wondering if.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I was wondering if we do go the gun route, if we do it like Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, where it's like Triforce guns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got like the logo on the side.
Oh
It'd
my
have to be
god.
Master Force or Master Sword guns, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or would it be like a fucking like? And this is more anime than cyberpunk, but it could be a sword that is also a gun.
Oh yeah, that would be like, what was it? Final Fantasy VIII. Squall had that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and it was like really impractical and weird.
It's
like
super
you
dumb.
would
Yeah.
strike somebody with the sword and then shoot the gun at the same time,
It's just
but you couldn't use the gun ranged. Like why? Like why even have it?
right.
It's just like a
I
really,
know if
really
you're
intense
stabbing
shotgun.
somebody, pretty much the damage is done. You don't need to shoot them as well.
Right. It's just an insult now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a way to leave a traceable piece of evidence.
Right. Yeah, it's really confusing to the detectives investigating the scene. Like, he was stabbed to death, but he's got gunpowder residue all over him? I don't understand.
Did somebody stab him and then just put a bullet inside of this wound? Shove it in there.
Yeah. Some terrible forensic examiners in that world.
Anyway.
Yeah, so
Zelda.
like, I think, yeah, you know, Master Sword guns does feel like a thing you would have to do, right? Like where you, I mean, I don't know if you want to take, because we have a couple ways we could go with this, right? You have Breath of the Wild, which owes a lot to previous Zeldas, but is largely, I feel like it's kind of like a remake of the first Zelda, like if it had been made now, right?
Right.
Like where it's like a massive world that you don't really know anything about, and you're just kind of left to go explore it, and you have to find the things that you have to find. You have to bomb weird places to get into, to you know, find certain things, and it's just kind of like it's up to you. You go out and play the game,
Right?
Do what you want to do. But that also has a lot of it. Kind of gets rid of a lot of the old school Zelda stuff, even though it kind of calls back to it. And or you have the classic sort of traditional Zelda, where every game is basically just a retread of Ocarina of Time.
Right.
Forever. So, you know, which way should we go here? Which way means more cyberpunk?
It's hard to say. Like, well, what are we making? Are we making a movie? Are we making a game? Are we making a?
I'd
say
say either
it's
like
like a movie.
TV show or a movie, right?
Yeah.
You want to cross me? Yeah. Okay. So if it's a movie, you know, I feel like it's gonna just by the linear nature of it, it's gonna veer towards the second one. But you also want to suggest that this giant city, because it has to take place in a city,
Right.
Yeah.
it is as expansive that could feel like you want to explore it that way, if that makes sense. You
Yeah.
could probably lean on the tropes. You still got to use things to like get past certain, like use bombs on certain areas to get past certain things.
It's C4 now,
In
though.
a city. Yeah.
Yeah. But he would have like callbacky stuff. Like, I mean, the hookshot would actually be like a genetic piece of him, right? It'd be his arm. Like his
Yeah,
hand
it would definitely come out of like a
his-
cannon. Oh man, his hand would just launch out and you'd grab onto shit, right? But it'd have to be a chain, right? They would have to wind the chain back into him, you know. Oh man, I agree with you, Chris. I think that you want it to feel like it has a sort of like Breath of the Wild doesn't like give you much story to propel you into the world, which I really like, but I feel like you need something to, you know, other than like the bad guy in the giant tower, which is very cyberpunk, right? Like the you just always see Hyrule Castle, and it's like covered in purple smoke, and there's the evil dragon sort of like dancing around it the whole game, and it's just like ever present and it's always there. And I feel like you'd have some sort of giant evil, evil corp statue or a giant skyscraper right in the center of the town, like right in the middle of the town, in the city. But there's a lot of things in the Zelda, like if you deep dive into the lore like a big nerd like me, there's a lot that implies that there has been that a lot of the games are connected, which I don't think is super necessary, but they've kind of implied it. And they've just been like cataclysms and like world-ending events over and over again. So like even in Breath of the Wild, you're going through Hyrule 100 years after Ganon effectively destroyed it all, right? So you're going through ruins and things that are overgrown and things that people have built on top of ruins and built like new settlements within old bombed out versions of like towns. And that, even though it's a fantasy, feels very cyberpunk to me, where like people have just sort of made the best they can out of like eking out a living in this like bombed out, destroyed version of their home. And that story is just told by you just walking around and finding journals and like taking pictures and talking to people. And I feel like that is a pretty cool like setting, even if we don't do the open nature of Breath of the Wild. But that sort of like a city built on the ruins of previous cities, kind of like Seattle. Feels very cyberpunk to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it maps pretty cleanly, right? You have like the idea came out of it for me anyway. Like Ganon being this sort of like he is genetically modified to be like a pig.
I love it.
Monster.
I love it so much. You know what I mean? I've been waiting for you to say it.
but it's cool, right? Like where he actually does sort of look like a pig, like a massive pig, and like that's. A choice he made for some
I feel
reason
like,
or whatever.
Do we get to that point in the movie, though? Because, like, he starts as a dude and then transforms into a pig man, right? So I almost want to see, like, is he, like, the CEO of whatever the dumb corporation name is, right? There's some dumb tongue-in-cheek corporation name. And then you get to him, and then he's like, aha, you thought you defeated me. And then he, like, jumps in his capsule, and it, like, converts him into some giant hulking pig man? I don't know. Like,
I don't
maybe...
know. I mean, I feel like that's too hokey for Zelda. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I feel like you could do that, but you'd always want it to be like in a cyberpunk thing, you'd kind of want to start hearing about like people taking the modifications too far or something, right? And
yeah.
And this one guy's the ringleader, and then like bokoblins or whatever start showing up all in the city, and like Link's investigating that, at Zelda's behest, right?
What benefit would augmenting yourself to look more like a pig give you? I'm trying to figure out.
I think pigs have super strength or something. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely the tusks. I think is the bonus.
Yeah.
Well.
You also get the other benefits of being a pig, like a delicious belly, and you could also be shitting a lot. I don't know.
You can dig for truffles real good.
Yeah. Those truffles are very, very valuable in this city because they're hard to come
that's
by.
actually the currency that you. It's not rupees. It's truffles. I like.
Well, it's when you cook them with other things, you get certain elixirs.
Oh shit! Oh my god! There's got to be like black market. Like potions, witch type vendors, right? Where you bring like all your fucking weird ass, bioluminescent mushrooms and shit that you've found growing wherever, and you turn them into something.
Well, it's Tingle, like Tingle.
Oh my god!
Is like an underground black market merchant.
Yeah.
And you can Link.
And he's super jovial and does not belie his dangerous nature.
Yeah, he looks exactly right in this world too. Like he doesn't have to change at fucking all.
Right.
He's just weird, and but he lives in like an underground like sex dungeon.
Now we're cyberpunking.
And you go down like way down deep into the underbelly of the city.
We hear the throbbing
Tingle
like techno music, right? Like as you go down the staircase, you feel the bass of the techno music for sure.
And he laughs exactly the same way. He spins around, and every fucking thing is identical.
Oh man, I love it.
Except that he's like scary.
I love that, like by just simply
he's already kind of scary.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like taking a character that's kind of weird in its normal place and not changing him at all, but just putting him in a cyberpunk world in his weird green tights. It makes him a completely fucking perfect fit. Like you don't have to do any change to him at all. He just fits perfectly in a weird cyberpunk world.
He's got his weird red nose and everything.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, I got this horrible like fucking acid flashback of the act of the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I was like, oh my god, are we just making that? Because I don't want
Oh
to do
yeah, we
that.
could be.
Oh no, I don't want to do that. Where all the
No,
Goombas
no.
are like dudes
I've
in
never
trench
even
coats.
seen that, but
The
no,
Super Mario
we're
Brothers
not
movie?
doing that. No, it would have to be like Ganon would have to basically be like the only one, but like not. I mean, not really. I think you would probably have a class of people who sort of had to genetically alter themselves, you know, because you then have the bird people as well, right? Like the Rudo. Are they Rudo?
Yeah,
Something
Rudo.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or would they just
and
be like aliens, right? Because there's always that cyberpunk thing of like we've contacted aliens and now they just kind of hang out in our towns with us.
Well, yeah, they could be. They could be. But I mean, I feel like it works better if you're like because they're the Zoras are like half fish people, right?
Yeah.
And the Ritos are like half birds.
Yeah, the convenient
then-
parts of birds.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, you know, they fly around, they're couriers or whatever, just like in Zelda, right? You know, it doesn't have to necessarily make sense because we're adapting Zelda,
Yeah,
because it doesn't make sense in Zelda.
right. Yeah,
If
that's a
you
good
start
point.
thinking about it, it's like, why do these people look like fucking birds? It's like, well, why does
Or
Ganon look
rocks.
like a pig man?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've talked a lot about like the little bits and pieces of the world and like the world building, but I definitely want to figure out like what the like I guess the 1,000 Mile Up plot is going to be, and we could sort of like dive into the actual like movie itself a little bit. Is it just a straight? I mean, it makes sense to just be like there is, you know, the evil guy in the tower that has captured the princess, and you have to go. Like, is it you have to go to the 7 dungeons and defeat the 7 guys and get the 7 things and bring them to the castle, or is it something a little bit different? Like, is it a spin on that, or like what? How do we feel about the actual like plot of the movie?
I think if
I'm
you go,
Go ahead, John.
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, the only cyberpunk thing I can think of is that I know it even remotely well is Blade Runner, and I have this feeling that it usually kind of takes at least the structure of a detective story the way the Blade Runner did. I don't know if that's always the case with cyberpunk shit, but I don't know.
It's not. I mean, I wouldn't say it's always the case because I haven't read a lot of cyberpunk, but I would say that, you know, it's fair to say that it's common.
Yeah, I think so. I could see
Yeah.
like I don't think we have to make Link like a gumshoe specifically, but there definitely could be. There's usually like some sort of subterfuge that is like uncovered over the course of the movie, right?
Yeah, there's always some kind of deeper noirish like underbelly going on, and I think that like you know, with Link, you don't have to change him too much because like A, he's not much of a character, but B, like he already sort of has this like I'm asleep for a long time and then I
Right.
get woken up kind of thing, which would naturally fit into like a cryo sleep or cryo chamber or like some kind of
Cryo prison.
cryo prison. Oh, what's my boggle? I couldn't go a whole episode without
We're
it
never
coming
going to
up.
get away from it. It's
God
good.
damn it!
Yeah.
It's okay, Chris. You can cut that out. It's fine.
So
No, I agree though. I think that having him wake up, having him be reactivated in some way, and not really understand the world, like he in Breath of the Wild, he comes back 100 years later and he doesn't really recognize everything. I think that could be cool. Where he like you want to have that the main character sort of question the world so that the viewer can also learn about the world too, right? So yeah, having him like be, you know, woken up after being in cryo sleep. I mean, maybe he's not a gumshoe. Maybe he doesn't really have a job. Maybe he was just like frozen, you know, cryogenically frozen either by accident or by, you know, a choice to like extend his life or something.
It might be interesting if he did have like these enhancements. You know, like he was like this thing, like basically kind of feels like an experiment at the beginning, and he wakes up and he has no idea who he is, right?
Mhm.
And then like all of a sudden he like goes to reach or something and his hand shoots out. And he's like, oh my god, I got a hook shot. You know what I mean? And like he's but he's kind of like this otherwise this sort of like identityless like robot. You know, not
Yeah.
robot, but he's got all these enhancements. He doesn't know what happened to him, right? he can all of a sudden, he just knows that he didn't used to be able to see, like, zoom in on things in his left eye or whatever the fuck you want to give to him, you know, like, but he's kind of like discovering these things as he like maybe he was being, you don't have to go this way per se, but maybe he was being augmented by, you know, the Ganondorf Corporation or something stupid.
Good. Yeah.
And then, like, all of a sudden this woman shows up and it's like, you need to get out of here. Like, just opens up his, like, and then just throws, like, a tunic on him.
It's like the ass open, like, doctor, like gown from the hospital, but it happens to be that blue color.
Yeah. And then they rush out and she's like, it's kind of like Spirited Away a little bit, you know. When, all of a sudden, when he wakes up, when she goes into the spirit world, and what's his name, Haku, is like, just like tells her what to do.
Right.
Like Zelda could show up and be like this, like one connection or one sort of explanation piece towards this world for the character, but he's kind of like this lost, empty, almost amnesia, like he has amnesia.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes me feel too. Like I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, but Zelda, like Cyberpunk has a very long history of making like women like badasses. You know, like I think that to a fault actually, but like having Zelda be a lot more in the action, because like Wind Waker, right, was great for a long time with Zelda because she was just. Pirate lady.
She's a fucking pirate.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you get to the point in the coolest point in the story, but then they go, stay here, don't do anything.
Yeah, she turns into a princess and then gets captured or whatever, right? Like,
yeah, it's terrible.
It sucks.
It's like, it's the worst turn in any of those Zelda stories because it was just like Zelda was like really in the story for a long time, for the first time. So I think it would be cool to kind of like fold her in and make her like more, like, even having her serve that sort of like support role. Would be more than she did. Like if you know, like the sword or like Midna does.
She's always just the objectified damsel in distress.
Yeah,
right?
avoiding that would be rad. Yeah,
and that is the fault. That is the you know the fault of many of these sorts of things. You know, like the Sean Young character almost in Blade Runner. They're just like this, like, oh, I can't really do anything for myself. The man has to step in. You know.
Yeah.
And I mean, avoiding that would be good.
Yeah, but I like that. You know, we could just sort of take it's definitely a worn cyberpunk sort of like thing to do, but you know, a guy has a job, gets in a terrible accident or is like gunned down in the street, protecting someone, you know, he's like a police officer or something. Like it's the RoboCop, right? Like he's gunned down in the street and then he's like put under and cyberneticized and comes back with no memory. I mean, in RoboCop, that's what the story is about, but like that is an opening where he like never asked for this to be done to him, but it's, you know,
I don't know though. I think if you do that, you end up losing the sort of mysticism that's always around Link, like being the hero. Like I don't think we'd want to lose that necessarily, right?
What do you
like,
mean?
I think because like in all these games, he's sort of like the chosen one or whatever, right? Like he's the one who is fated. Like Zelda, and Ganon are fated to be the Triforce of courage, power, and wisdom, right? Like.
Right.
And like they always end up 100 years later or however, like they always come together. It's like fate, It's like destiny. So I feel like if you give him that, it kind of takes away from that. Like if he just wakes up and doesn't know and then finds out that he's the chosen one versus like becoming it over the course of like, it's like Neo from the Matrix,
right?
Versus RoboCop.
No, that's a fair point. I think that there's an angle of not spirituality, but like destiny and fate and like unexplainable spiritual type things that would be lost. So yeah, I think that keeping that element of it is pretty important to the franchise and the story as a whole. Like are they reincarnated? Is it just a loop with different people? Is it the same people? And we never really talk about that or explain it. I think you're right. That would probably want to keep that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's like if Zelda kind of comes in and she's the one who's driving the whole thing, right? Like she's the one who wants to stop Ganon, and she realizes that she's not going to be able to do it alone, and she grabs Link, and they end up sort of empowering each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Through the course of the story, I think you get a cool thing going with that, where you know she's sort of like enhanced. They fight together. and like there's some probably some ninja shit.
Oh, definitely some ninja shit.
Yeah. Throw some throwing stars and sneak up on some people.
The throwing stars are triangles, right?
Could be.
They have to be. Triforce
Yeah,
throwing
definitely.
stars. They go into Tingle's shop and he opens the fucking case and he's been waiting for you. Okay, so I like that opening that Chris pitched. So we have this like amnesiac sort of Link and Zelda sort of like pulling him by the arm through the city and explaining the sort of like stakes and explaining the state of the world. Like the next big thing, right, is to get the Master Sword or guns or whatever the fuck. So how do we envision that happening?
I don't know. I would say like those are like you start out with like like it's almost like the opening Link to the Past, right? Where like there's like a thing going on. We get past that. We introduce Ganon as the bad guy or whatever at the end of it, right? But like they she breaks into this facility where he is and breaks him out, and like they see Ganon like in silhouette with his pig tusks sticking up, and then and it's raining,
Yeah, it's got to be raining for like 80% of the
We find out
movie.
later that was just some sort of weird sex mask. He's just a guy.
That's actually what
It's
it
like
is. He hasn't
Hotline
augmented him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, but it's like opening Ocarina of Time, right? A little bit. Like, he's not on a horse necessarily, but Ganon's there. Like, Link runs into him. It's bad news. And then, like, they basically go on a quest to stop him from doing whatever nefarious garbage he's going to try to do to take over the city. And yeah, like you were saying earlier, Harrison, you see, like, his like nightclub at the top of the spire of the center of the city or whatever, where
Right.
he's like running things from. But they probably, because it's a cyberpunk thing, like somehow get invited to a party there,
Right.
like, midway through, and end up going dressed up or they end up genetically altering themselves for a limited amount of time. They have masks that are remade of their genetic material or whatever, so they can dress up like bokoblins, and there's like a comedic section of the movie where they're in there like pretending to be pigs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I think that structure works where you sort of like you take all of the elements of Zelda that are always in every game, where there's like a water temple and there's a fire temple and there's a forest area, and like all of those are like callbacky sort of things that you there's like a nightclub that looks like it's made up of fake greenery.
Right. Yeah.
And it's too expensive to get real greenery, so it's all fake and it's
No.
all like
That's
holographic.
the thing. Like, it's owned by some really rich dude who's so rich that he could actually fucking have real trees, and everyone is so like blown away that he could afford
Right.
like a real like fucking Japanese water garden or whatever. That's his like thing. Like, he's so fucking rich he could afford that.
And he meets that's where he meets Saria, like, and she ends up being like one of the sages.
That's what I was going to ask you, right? Like, how do we? I don't know, Chris, if you have any thoughts on this either, but like, how do we get you go into different dungeons, different themed dungeons, and get the MacGuffin from each one? Is it a person? Are they trying to recruit like a squad, like a heist squad? Are they trying to make an army? Form an army? Is there actually some sort of tech nonsense they have to sort of acquire to like get the key to enter the house, enter the citadel or whatever?
You might be able to do that with this. This is going to feel unrelated at first, but I feel like I've had this thought since we started talking about this story. And it will lead into an answer of what you're just talking about. But I kind of have this feeling. A lot of the times in cyberpunk sort of stories, it feels like there's this sort of disconnect between humans, like by default. Do you know what I mean? Or the characters have like this sort of like coldness about them, or this disconnect, and then they kind of slowly start to chip away, like past like these cold fronts that they kind of put up.
Yeah, everyone's sort of like very, very wary of other people trying to like use them or kill them or take advantage of them or whatever.
Yeah, and maybe what if at the beginning when Zelda busts Link out of this thing, what if Link is like, she just like literally looks at him as a robot that she can build up to like help fight Ganon, right? But then over the story, she starts to like, they start to get humanized in each other's eyes and start to grow closer. But when her first intent when she was breaking him out was like, I can just take this sort of like blank slate sort of soldier and then take him around to like all these places and put all these augmentations in him so that he can one day fight Ganon.
So each of the things in the temple is like an actual weapon that can just get slotted onto his back or whatever?
It's an idea. I'm not saying it's the best idea, but it was something I was thinking about, and then might like tie into that sort of story where, you know, when she doesn't give a shit about him when she first sort of breaks him out. He could die for all she gives a shit. He's just a weapon. And then as the story goes on, they spend enough time that she starts to see that like he's more than just this fucking cybernetic.
Yeah. What I like about that is that that means you have the scene where he realizes, like, you start the movie just assuming she's a good person because she rescues him. So, you know, like, oh, I'm on board with Zelda and she seems really cool. And then you have that scene where either her initial plan is revealed or she admits it. And there's that like breaking up of the team moment where like he's really pissed at her. He doesn't trust her. And she's like, you know, I'm really sorry. And they have to sort of like regain each other's trust again once all of that comes out. I feel like you would want to have a scene like that, or that just sort of like fits into the, oh man, like we can't trust anybody, like that Cyberpunk-esque, you know, nobody, even the person you thought was trustworthy, are they using you? Or are they going to stab you in the back? What's going on? And then she has to like they have to earn each other's trust back again. I think that would be that fits into that sort of story pitch that you mentioned.
It just seems like that seems to be an element of the few cyberpunk things I've seen. Is that sort of like these people have to, you know, get past their augmented exteriors and get back into their humanity.
I love the idea that like he has like power-ups in like 7 dungeons that he has to go like claim, and they're just like 7 small corporations, but like, you know, but with really, because that's the thing about cyberpunk worlds too, especially like there's the Netrunner card game, which is set in like the Android universe, and like there are very specific corporations. Like one is the biomodification corporation, one is the like news corporation, one is the space corporation. They each have a very set theme. So like the idea of you having to like travel to each of these like locations, these complexes, and one's a tower and one's an underground base and one's a Japanese garden or whatever, and steal some sort of tech to like upgrade his like hardware. It's kind of dumb and goofy, but I think there's something there. There's definitely something that we could use.
Well, I think that you could get to the place where it's like the tech that you're getting is sort of more naturally a part of the story, or like I think you get to that place where there is the nightclub, right? Like where there's forestry. Like if there are real trees there, it's the only place to get this thing that Tangle needs to make you
right
augment you in some way that, you know, allows you to infiltrate this other place. And like, you know, you could sort of like sneak in those things without it being like the point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that like, makes sense.
There's another reason to get into that corporation, but like when you're there, they find another thing that sort of augments Link, and so now he can like have boomerang fingers. Whatever.
Oh man. Yeah. No, I think that's cool. And we don't have to make it 8, right, or 7 or whatever the fucking number is. We can just make it what makes sense, and you know, we can make it feel correct in a linear fashion, because a lot of the games it's kind of linear but not always, and a lot of Zelda games have that lock and key sort of mechanic where you need the hook shot from dungeon 1 to reach dungeon 2, and then you need to get the whatever object, the fucking flying carpet or whatever nonsense, from dungeon 2 to get to dungeon 3. So there is a like use item on, you know, terrain obstacle, you know, to bomb through the wall, you need to get bombs to get to the other thing. So it's just like, you know, a lock and a key, even if it's not an actual key. So I could see there being some sort of linear thing where like, oh man, we're gonna need to like stealth through this place, and the only way to like the place that has all the stealth gear is here. We need to break into this facility and steal the stealth gear to get from the stealth location to this other location.
Yeah.
One of those locations could be, or at least the avenue to which they need to travel to get to that location, the sewers where Zora has come to live.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're just mutated fish people.
Absolutely, and they're kind of gross. They have gross,
Yeah.
slick, wet, like webbed hands, and they talk with that like gurgly sound.
Yeah,
They're like
but-
big catfish people.
But they're the most humane of the people. They're
Of course.
the most human of all the people in the city.
God, I love the idea that you pitched earlier, Sean, about everyone being genetically modified to do a job. So like they are like the bird people are the messengers, and the Gorons are the builders, and like the pig people are like the heavy construction folks, and these Zora are, I don't know, they sort of like sort through the people's trash or whatever because they live in the sewers.
They just eat shit.
That's their job, to eat shit. Or maybe they have like
eat shit.
underground kelp farms or some dumb shit, right? Like they have some sort of underwater thing that they do, or they are the recycling people, whatever. You know what I mean? Like they deal with the rot and of the town, and they help things grow or whatever. And like and that's really dumb and comic booky, but it actually feels very cyberpunk to have like I literally changed my body to be better at my job, because that's otherwise I will be homeless and die of starvation. That level of like, not sadness, but like desperation feels super cyberpunky. So I could definitely see them having to go into like the Zora domain, which is just like the fucking sewers and water pipes underneath the city.
But the thing that's beautiful about that is that like Zelda, right, who is probably well off in this world, right, in some way, but still needs to fight back.
She owns the Sheikah Corporation, but
shit!
That's just her secret
my God.
identity.
But she sort of like is disgusted by these people, and then sort of like learns that they're like, and then unites them against Ganon. Right?
So is she kind of sheltered and like doesn't know a lot about like
she hasn't been down in the shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
she's in the aristocracy.
Yeah.
Her dad was basically a king. She's basically a princess, some might say.
Yeah, I like that, and that metaphor works really well for this.
Like her dad. Yeah. I mean, the Sheikah Corporation or whatever. I mean, like it's the Red Lion Corporation.
Yeah, of course
like,
it is.
Yeah, and there's a giant red lion like billboard or like giant neon sign on one of the buildings there, and they make Walkman or whatever.
Cigarettes.
Because it can't be something that's current if it's a cyberpunk thing for whatever reason. It can't be digital screens. It's got to be analog.
It's got to be more complicated, already existing technology.
100%. Yeah.
For no benefit.
It's like a wrist television. I think that what's really cool about that, like, the fact that it's all corporations based, and corporations, especially in this world, are all about hostile takeovers and absorbing other smaller corporations and like spreading your influence. It feels very high fantasy, right? Like the Ganondorf Corporation acquires like Zelda's dad's corporation in a shitty, underhanded way by pretending to be his friend, right? Like that's the Zelda 64, that's the Ocarina of Time thing, where he shows up and like bends the knee to the king or pretends to be his like advisor, but then like usurps him, steals the corporation, makes him sign some paperwork he doesn't understand because he's kind of like getting on in years, he's not really paying attention, steals the corporation, and her dad either dies not penniless, but like there's he has maybe another corporation he can work with, like a small corporation, or he works with his daughter to start up the Sheikah Corporation or something. But like the Ganondorf stealing, the throne effectively from Zelda's father is kind of the start of a lot of these Zelda stories. And the throne in this case is just the biggest corporation, right?
Well, we could definitely make this. Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, go ahead.
We could definitely make this more nihilistic and sort of pessimistic, and you could have an underbelly or like sort of a subplot where Zelda, now that she's taking over things for her dad, like she finds out that he had like some factories and industrial parks in the Gordon area, and it's just like this gross, like almost like slave labor, like awful work conditions that have forced people as the Gordons to like endure explosions and shit.
Yeah.
Do you know, like you could have that sort of, you could weave that in that she's discovering some things she never knew about, and then her dad wasn't the great man that she might have thought he was.
Yeah, or he was just totally ambivalent about it. Like, he didn't necessarily know it was happening, but he didn't care if it was.
Yeah, as long as he got paid, yeah.
Yeah. He just, other people do this for me. Like that could have been like how Ganon rose to power, right? Like, he was a trusted advisor, but he ended up doing some nefarious shit. But the profits went up, so thumbs
so
up,
no one
dude.
cared. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's nice about that is you could have.
Sounds very piggish.
Yeah, what a dick!
Yeah,
What a greedy
exactly, yeah.
pig!
We're
What I like about
some Orwellian levels of fucking literary criticism here.
Oh
by
my
the
God,
way,
yes, it's really
making
good.
him a pig. Yeah.
So what I like also about that is it affords us the opportunity to have Zelda, who's trying to work with these like dregs isn't the right word, but like the Zoras and all of these people who are literally living in shit, and they know who she is, and they're like disgusted by her. They're like, we're not gonna fucking help you. We are here because of what your father did. And then she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So she doesn't understand all of the stuff. To your point, Chris, like she doesn't know that all the shit that her father had done to these people. So her having to sort of reckon with that and sort of get an apology or apologize to these people and sort of make amends for that to access the waterways or whatever. I can see that really fitting in well with what you're kind of pitching.
Yeah. So what do we do here? Like, so Link and Zelda get together. Link sort of he's okay rooting around in the shit, and shows Zelda the way, and then she has to get him on board with her ideals, right?
Yep.
Like what she wants to do. Like, why should I care, kind of a thing. But he still fights for her, whatever. And is there a romantic subplot here? Do we have the sort of unspoken sexual tension that exists in every Zelda game, even when they're children for whatever reason in no period of time?
Yeah, that's the worst part.
No, it's not really. There's no sexual tension. I'm just kidding. It's kind of sweet in that game, but like
they're like childhood friends. But I think if in this, it would make sense to have that unspoken sexual tension. I don't think you actually want a real, because like it never blossoms into an actual romance in any of the Zelda games. It's just kind of there.
Should remain. So then they get together. They find all these mutants. They rally these mutants together. They're the genetically engineered. What are they going to call these? What are we going to call these mutants? What's their nickname? I mean, I feel like they need to have like like they've been genetically cut, right? They're called like they're
spliced,
like genies or something. Like splicers. Oh wait.
But I mean, they already have names, right? Like do we want to just not call them Zoras and whatever
No, we would definitely call. I don't mean individually. I mean as a group, like as a class of people who are pure
splices.
Yeah.
I have a great idea.
Yes, good. I love that you started laughing before you said you had a great idea.
Link doesn't have a name the whole movie, and then at the end, when all these people have been united,
fuck.
Zelda's like, God. You're the one.
Oh man,
you're the reason I've finally been able to band all these people together. You're almost like the missing link.
Oh,
and it's just like,
God.
oh fuck, that's what we'll call you.
I love that he's like, all right.
That's good, but I think equally good would be his tank number is L1.
Like
no, that's what I was gonna say.
I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah.
I was gonna say to Chris, like, I'm so glad you didn't do the like Link is an acronym or like it's just like L.I.N.C and it's his fucking like serial number or some shit, because that would have been a terrible idea, and then he just fucking went with it.
Yeah, no, it is a terrible idea. But
man.
By good, I mean bad.
Yeah. It's like tattooed somewhere on him, right? Like he's got to have a serial number tattooed on his like arm or his neck or some shit.
So he's Finn from Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
This is. We got to go classier than this, guys. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Zelda here.
Yeah, that's a real bummer.
So anyway, so they do this, right? They storm the castle with the mutants, like they storm with like the end of the corporation building, whatever.
The skyscraper.
They storm it. It's like the end of Octopussy. Where they have a bunch of circus performers and freaks storm the castle.
And many of them die.
People who would normally be called freaks. I didn't mean to offend anyone. And then basically, like, there's a throne room battle with Ganon.
Yes.
A gun battle?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that he would have an augmented room, right? Like, he'd have a room with all sorts of secret, like, weapons hidden in the walls and, like, shit that would jump out of the poison spikes that jump out of the fucking floor at you. Like, he would have this weirdly overprotected like force field room, right? Like he's got to have like put all of this shit into this room.
I don't know. I think what you do is you do the he's got the most beautiful room in the whole kingdom, the whole city. Like you go up there and it looks like the end of like Wind Waker, where there's just like water flooding constantly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like reflections and shadows, but then it's also booby trapped, like you're saying.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
I had this idea too, that maybe like you might be able to make this take advantage of the cyberpunk if for much of the movie Ganon looks like he did as Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time. He's just a dude, right? And then like they get a chance to attack him like out in the open, and Link like stabs him and delivers like an almost like a mortal blow, but he's not dying, right? And then he gets back to his lair, and like Ganondorf, you're gonna die. Then they say it like that with no feeling, and then he's like, they're like, there's a way we can save you. I can't remember his like wizard character that's in some of the games. Yeah, and then he's like, we can put your consciousness in this big like robot pig thing.
What I pitched at the beginning of this podcast. It's literally the pitch that I had.
I know. I'm just bringing it full circle.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Now that you've said it, I love it.
Good. Yeah, me too. I didn't like it at first, but it's really good now.
I just added that extra little spin to it that makes it good. Makes it good. I think there's definitely the showdown in the room, but I still want to know how we get those Master Sword guns, right? Like that's got to be an important scene in the that's the turning point in this game, and it's always you are the man of destiny. Here are the things that have been waiting for you in this like fucking chamber for like 100 years.
I got it. Right. Okay. So Link is like the 50th iteration of this thing.
Uh-huh.
Like he's like if he's a robot, an android, whatever, right? Like he's like the last one, and he's the first one that succeeded in a long time, right? And in order to get the guns that will kill Ganon, he has to kill the old version. So he has to fight Shadow.
Oh fuck!
A Shadow version, like if you ever play a video game, right, where like you can like save your ghost and erase your ghost.
Yeah,
it's like that. He has to go in there and beat himself from 100 years ago.
Okay.
To get the guns.
That's real dumb, but I actually kind of genuinely love that because it feels stupid in a cyberpunk way. Hang on. Okay, all right. Here's how we set that scene up, right? We have the chamber wherever it's hidden, like they uncover its location and they go there. It's like in the crumbling ruins part of the city, right? Like there's like the old quarter, right? And it's like all the old buildings. And there's they sort through the ruins and they sort of like find a underground room, and there's a biopad, right? You gotta like scan your DNA sequence to open it. So only like Link can get in. That's how we do the chosen one bullshit, right? It's like his genetic code. And they go to open it, and it's like error it's already been used. Like someone's already come through here, and they're like, what the fuck? Like there's only one person that could possibly have opened this, and it's you. So then they get in there, and there's just the first like version of Link, like the Shadow version, in there holding the guns. And he's like, for some reason he can't get out, or he's failed, or like he's gone mad, or whatever. And he has to basically defeat him to get those weapons. That's how you do that.
Those doors open, right? Those doors open, and it's just a room with like a shallow water pool. And
of course it is.
Single solitary individual tree in it. Yeah.
Oh man, what has he been waiting there for? How is he still alive?
He's a program. He's not real. He's like the ghost version of.
Yeah,
like
I get it. So when you scan that pad, it scanned his DNA and made a like duplicate of him for him to test him to make sure he's ready, right?
Yeah, he has to fight the version of him that used to work best.
That's so stupid.
It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it's good. We'll workshop that part.
There's a way that it could be good. I don't know what it is though.
But the frame is there.
Yeah,
there's also like in that same room at the pool. There's like this overly sexualized androgynous sort of fairy. It's just kind of hanging out too.
Oh man, the fairies. We haven't talked about them. They have to be like like Link has to be mortally wounded at some point in the game or the movie, and then they take him to like a brothel.
Oh man.
Yeah.
To heal up, and there's just a bunch of like genetically altered like beautiful
Hyper
fairies.
sexed up. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely a scene in there though, right, where they get into the brothel, and there's fairies everywhere, and they're all beautiful, and like Link is in a bath. He has to be in a bathtub.
Yeah.
And then one of them comes in and starts singing to him because that's what they do. Like they're like
That's
sirens,
how they heal
right?
you.
And he's just in the bathtub, and she's singing the Zelda, like the lullaby, like the fairy's lullaby.
Yeah.
And then Zelda comes in.
Yeah. No, that's good.
And then she just decks the fairy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She gets really weirdly
And then
jealous.
pulls him naked out of the bathtub. And he's like just covering his junk
With a towel.
as she like drags him through the whole rest of the place. Like,
We gotta get out of here. We
she's
gotta
like,
get out of here.
Yeah, you're healed enough. We have to go. Put these on, and she just like throws him some like fairy clothes.
Good. No, that's really good.
Yeah.
I like that they would be genetically modified to look like fairies. You know, with like the way, like digital wings or some dumb shit, right? Like that would be the stupid men fantasy of this world for some fucking reason. I totally buy that. I also think that, like, I was wondering if you were gonna try and get the like put a fairy in a bottle for later in there, but I'm glad we didn't, because I don't know how that would work, and that'd be real fucking weird.
That would be weird.
Just carrying a full-size person on its back at a
Yeah.
jar.
Yeah, or it's like they're actually digital. They're like AIs, and you can like store them in like a thumb drive.
They've been made smaller. Like they're all like yeah.
There's some
Doesn't have to be
weirdness
a
about like
brothel
just
at that
having
point,
a
but,
person
like-
in a bottle waiting for you to need them feels fucking gross.
No,
So-
I got it. You know, the non-gross version of it is potentially like he falls like not in love with, but there's like one fairy while he's like convalescing that like he gets to know, and she gives him like a little vial of something.
It's like a drug.
Yeah, and he like takes it later when he's like knocked almost dead. You know.
No, that's how we get
opens it.
that's how we get the like red potion in there. That's how we'll do the like red, blue, and green potions, right? From Link to the Past. That's how we'll do that. She hands him like a couple of like syringes, but like bottles of potion.
Narcotics.
Yeah, narcotic. Exactly. Yeah, it's just meth.
Meth isn't a narcotic. Come on.
Sorry, I don't know drugs as well as you do, Sean.
I know you don't.
Anyway, I like all of that. All of that is good. Each weird individual piece that we've built could easily be turned into an actual, legitimately decent, goofy Cyberpunk Zelda movie.
Yeah, I think it was all right. I think we did a pretty good job.
Let's do a comic book, so we don't waste as much money on it. Just so we save some money on the production.
We could feel it out. Just test the waters with the comic book version, and if it does really well, then they'll just take that and adapt it into a movie on its own.
Yeah.
So
frame by frame.
All of you comic book artists that are our listeners, all of you, feel free to just kind of start working on that right away.
Hey, Nintendo. I think we have gold here.
Yeah.
You should definitely contract us to.
Yeah, we'll write up a screenplay for you. But yeah,
hold on. I don't want to do that much work.
Oh, sorry. We will do a longer podcast.
We should contract us to come into a room and tell a screenwriter what to do.
Oh, perfect.
And
we are the idea, man.
Exactly. Then we fire them and get new screenwriters to rewrite that script.
Yeah, we just read the scripts and fire people until we get one we like.
Executive
And
producer.
we won't know what we like until we see it.
And also, I have to fire at least 5 people before I get one that I like.
Yeah.
It's that's just a rule.
That's the only way I can feel anything anymore. All right, I think this is the done podcast.
Yeah,
that was a good one. Actually, really, really, I didn't know what we were going to get into starting off on this one, but I'm really happy with where we ended up. So, anything else before we wrap up, Chris? Sean?
I'm just happy we got sex and Zelda because it always needed to be in there.
Yeah, and it's like in a brothel, which is like the best kind. So.
Yeah. Fucking yeah.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Come back next month for another installment.
Enjoy
this.
this. Keep listening to this.
Please keep listening.
This is more of what you want. Coming next month.
That's why we'll just keep talking right now so that you can keep listening to this.
I think
Yeah.
we're going to stop us now from doing
We'll
that.
never stop talking.
And stop.
Storied is Sean Ainsworth, Harrison Pink, and Chris Rebbert, and our music is written by Jared Emerson Johnson. To hear more about the show or to send us your feedback, email us at storiedcast@gmail.com, all one word, or follow us on Twitter at storiedcast. Thanks so much for listening.